Thank you, Brandon Graham. I want to spend the first portion of today's show just thanking Brandon Graham. One of the most underappreciated, underrated, all time great Eagles of all time. Officially announced his retirement yesterday. We're going to talk about that. Special guest, we're going to go 5 for 5 later in the show. El Parcero back on the morning airwaves. Trending in the AM. We're live in 30 seconds.
Pop, 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 julep. Pop, 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 julep. Pop, 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 julep. Pop, 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 woo!
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on the STT Sports Network. We are live, YouTube and Twitter. You know the drill. Hit that like button and that subscribe button on the YouTube page. Please hit share. Send it out to one of your social media platforms. I greatly appreciate it. As the march to 500 subscribers is this close, 27 away. We're sitting at 473 to start the show. So please do your worst. Like and subscribe and share. Do it all, guys. I greatly appreciate it. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, always right here on Trending in the AM, guys. And we got a special show today. Part one of the special show has been in the works for a little while. Returning to the morning airwaves. You know him as you know him as Parcero. I know him as JP Zapata. He's be joining the show at 8:30, bringing his flair to all 5 Philadelphia sports teams and his thoughts and opinions on everything happening in Philly sports. But the first half of the show is now been dedicated to one of the greatest Eagles of all time, Brandon Graham, who after 15 years of playing in Philadelphia announced his official retirement from the NFL, not just the Eagles, the NFL. And there's a lot to dive into about the Brandon Graham legacy. There's also a lot that can be learned from the Brandon Graham legacy. 2010 first-round pick for the Eagles, 13th overall. Played 15 years, the most games ever in Eagles history at 206. His name is actually a lot higher on a lot of the records in Eagles defense that I didn't even realize. But he's proof to not overreact to rookies in their first year, second year. I think it was his third or fourth year before Brandon Graham really started to break out and make his mark on the Eagles and in the NFL. Brandon Graham won 2 Super Bowls in Philadelphia. Played in a third. I don't think there's too many people that can say that. He is third all-time sacks in Philadelphia Eagles history with 76.5 sacks. Most tackles for loss in Eagles history. 153 quarterback hits, second behind Fletcher Cox. Second all-time in forced fumbles. Like, did you realize how many records he was 1 or 2 in? Because honestly, I did not till I started doing the research. I knew he was up there. And playing 205 games, 206 games, that'll do it for you. But it's pretty special to see, in hindsight, what kind of career Brandon Graham had. One of the most professional guys out there. One of the most beloved guys out there. One of the guys that just, he'll go down 20, 30 years from now. When we're talking Eagles football, we'll be like, remember Brandon Graham? That's how special he is. Yo, get your thumbs up in the air for Phil. Yeah, thank you very much. Like and subscribe. That is right. Well, that's Fairway thinks out of you. Thank you, Brandon Graham. You the man. Has to be up there with Dawkins and Kelsey, maybe above. I know there's a lot of people making a big deal about Jason Kelsey not being there yesterday. It's kind of last-second planning, so I'm not sure why, but that is something right there. And yes, he's right there with Kelsey, Dawkins, Lane Johnson eventually when his retirement happens in a few years. Eventually when Jalen Hurts' retirement happens in a few years. Carmichael, Mike Quick. There are a lot of names up there. Brandon Graham's got to be in that top 5. Well, yeah. I don't know where everybody is. BG is part 1 of the biggest Eagles defensive plays of all time. Yeah. Brandon Graham goes down as the man that made the play, the strip sack at Tom Brady that gave us our first ever Super Bowl championship, Peanut. And I don't think there's a single Eagles fan out there that will not ever forget that moment, where they were, the feelings, the emotions they felt when Brandon Graham strip sacked there on Tom Brady. Derek Barnett recovering the fumble. Don't ever forget that. DB. Also a big part of history. Like, it's one of those moments when I remember sitting there and my wife had to look at me like, are you okay? She literally thought I had a heart attack at that moment because it was such a special moment. And Brandon Graham goes down as that player that made that play. Also teaches development is so important. He was thought to be a bust, not just as there was a big portion of Eagles fans, some that comment on the show, that was calling Nolan Smith after his rookie year a bust. And look how he did in his second year. Brandon Graham was quote unquote a bust for 2-3 years. He didn't become an all-pro. He was all-pro second team in 2016. You know, it takes these kids time sometimes to develop. Now, Brandon Graham it did help Brandon Graham that, they moved him around the line a little bit. Their defense was in shambles at that moment in history. But the Eagles were patient. He had multiple times career-threatening injuries. Multiple times his contract was up, and we didn't know what we'd do with Brandon Graham or what Brandon Graham would do with us. And the fact that he was able to stay in one city for 15 years, it's unheard of in this day and age of sports. I mean, there's a good chance that Lane Johnson also matches that and plays his full career here. But very rarely does a player in the NFL especially play their entire career in one city. Even Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, he played in multiple cities. Like, that's how hard it is to do that. El Peasy. Yes, El Parcero. Join us in about 20, 25 minutes. Stay tuned, Marshawn. I know you've been waiting for that. Bring all your 5 for 5 questions. Well, Peanut in the heezy, what? Jalen Hunt already stepped up a little bit in the playoffs, so he's going to be the guy going forward. Colts. What about the Colts? I don't understand the Colts comment from you, El Parcero. I'm not sure. Good morning, Rick. We were starting the show off thanking. Everybody's a little late in the house, but yes. We are all having a good morning. We're all celebrating Brandon Graham here to start. Sorry, Cooch. Oh, yeah. Sean Couturier with the Flyers, the 5th worst hockey team in the NHL. Flyers is the longest tenured Flyer. I don't think he'll stay. I think he will be gotten rid of by the end of this year. Maybe in the offseason he'll be gone. That's just my opinion there. BG rushed from the tackle position when he had that strip sack on Tom Brady. NASCAR formation, they called it. Nice pull there. Absolutely. Brandon Graham was flexible. He played tackle. He played end. He even played linebacker at a portion of his career here in Philadelphia. Kylie, what's up, my girl? How you doing? Surprise Bengals and Eagles Super Bowl hasn't happened yet. They both top 2. Well, you got to have a winning quarterback, kind of like, the Eagles do to do that. Tortorella needs to be gone. I was doing some prep for my special guest here, and I knew the Flyers have been sucking lately, but, man, I didn't know they fell so far in the standings. I haven't watched a hockey game in like a month. And, man, have they fallen in the standing, the Flyers. 5th worst record in the NHL, points-wise. The Flyers are not good. They are no bueno. No bueno. Paris Campbell signed with the Cowboys. What does he do first, radio host or coach? Well, he did say in his presser yesterday that he's going to have dinner with Jeffrey Lurie to discuss how he can stay active with the organization going forward. He's a guy that's, I mean, I could see some of the bigger networks, the ESPNs, the Amazons, the Netflix of the world, trying to poach him, trying to get him to do radio or TV work. He's got the personality. I saw somebody tweet out, I forget who it was, that he would be a perfect replacement for Mike Quick, whenever Mike Quick decides to hang up his headset, which I could see that. I could see him doing the radio show gig as well. I don't know about the coaching, the full-time coaching from Brandon Graham. I think he's more the media personality than the coach. That's just me. None would say Hurts better than Burrow. Well, I would. Since Joe Banner let Brian Dawkins walk, the Eagles have done a good job of letting all-time Eagles retire with dignity. Yeah, absolutely. Joe Banner letting Brian Dawkins walk is still sticking in my craw. You still got Joe Banner out there bad-mouthing the Eagles on Twitter whenever he can. He's going to be the Eagles trash talk coach. Is that what he's going to do? Is that what he's going to do? You know, I love how many. I know Jason Kelce did not show up, but maybe there was a timing thing there. Who knows? I love how many of his teammates were there to wish him well in his future endeavors yesterday. You know, even Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen Hurts is the most stoic, dry personality there is. And even he was out there smiling and laughing and celebrating Brandon Graham's career. That just goes to show how influential Brandon Graham was in this locker room and with this team. All-time great Brandon Graham. And the question is, does he get on your Eagles Mount Rushmore? Kelce and Dawkins. The old-timers will say Chuck Bednarik or something like that. But realistically, I mean, he's either number 1, 2, or 3 in almost every key defensive stat for a lineman in Eagles history. It is what it is. He might be a top 4 Eagle of all time. We're not getting into the Jack Ruby stuff. Yeah, it's the same stuff that was already. It's nothing. Let's not get into that stuff in the chat, but please find my man Peanut's YouTube page. Link down below in the description. Click subscribe. Memphis, if you like Peanut and you like his comments, you should click subscribe on his YouTube page. Either click his profile picture or click the link below. I know you don't care about Brandon Graham, but we are a Philadelphia-based sports show, so we don't care that you don't care about Brandon Graham. That's the thing. Seeing Cam step up in the absence of Kelce, do we have someone on the roster could do the same with Brandon Graham? See, it's different. Center is that position, touches the ball every single play on offense. Brandon Graham was a rotational defensive end. All defensive ends in Philadelphia are rotational guys. Now, the leadership of Brandon Graham, that's got to come from Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter said last year that he wanted to be the guy that took over the leadership of the defense. And it started out rough, but it got better as the season went on. Jalen Carter's going to have to be that Brandon Graham guy. I don't know if he's mature enough yet to be that guy, but maybe he is. Zach Bond may become the leader of the defensive room now. Now that he's not just a first-timer, he gets into his second season, gets the big payday. Zach Bond might be that guy. How bad will the 87ers end up with that? What pick will we be? The Sixers, well, I mean, I know you missed it at the 76ers, but, I mean, you could just call them the 87ers because, they're that bad. It's going to be close to get that draft pick. It's going to be very close. It's going to come down to the wire whether they get that draft pick or not. I don't know. And the Sixers get investigated for sitting guys all the time. Get the Oklahoma City Thunder start sitting 3 or 4 of their starters, including SGA, tonight. Nobody's going to investigate the Thunder for sitting guys. Absolutely. Day one, you heard me. Yep. Graham is one of my all-time favorite personalities. The funniest moment is when Cox had to simmer him down when he was mic'd up. I do remember that. Peanut. I do remember that. Here's one for you. Not only is he one of the Eagles' all-time greats, he's not an NFL Hall of Famer. I get that. But he'll be in the Eagles' Ring of Honor, Hall of Fame, whatever they call it. But should they? Will they retire number 55, the double nickels? Now, I think retired numbers are it's an overrated thing to do in general. But he is an all-time great. Played the most games in the history of this team. Will they retire the double nickel, 55? and keep any other player from playing it. That's something that I kind of been thinking about. You know what he is. He's just here to stir the pot and distract and do whatever. But, for some reason, we love him here. Graham is truly a man of the people. Never let his ego get the best of him. No. I'm sure there are times in his career where he could have left Philly, made more money elsewhere, been less happy. Brandon Graham is the epitome of what we want our athletes to be like. Do we know why Kelsey wasn't there? We don't know. I haven't seen anything, Rick, and I've gotten multiple messages about it from people asking me. Like, I got connections. I don't got connections. I don't know. But it wasn't like this was like 2 weeks planned, at least not to my knowledge. Maybe the Eagles had a plan for 2 weeks, but I don't think I saw anything saying that this was pre-planned for a long stretch of time. So maybe Jason Kelsey had plans. Maybe he had commitments elsewhere. I'm not sure what the deal was there. I'm sure it wasn't done out of disrespect or anything. I mean, there's no, any hints of him beefing with anybody. So I don't think there's anything there. After 15 years, hell yes, retire that number. Big Al saying they should retire that number. He's the Matthew Barnaby of the show. Yeah, pretty much. Random, one of my favorite BG memories was waiting to see his reaction after games while walking through the tunnel and interacting. His interactions with Derek Gunn. When Derek Gunn retired, that was one thing that I missed, on post games, for sure. You know what? Ask him what his next step will be. Brandon Graham and Derek Gunn hosting a weekly podcast together, or to give him a weekly TV show. They can talk sports. They can do bar. I know D Gunn loves to barbecue. I'm sure Brandon Graham loves to eat barbecue. I think a Brandon Graham, Derek Gunn, BG, and DG hit the road. Put them in a van and make them cross-country trip across America. That would be must-see right there. That's right. Start at 473. We need to get some 500. We need to get that 500 out there. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that share button. I greatly appreciate it. 55 should be retired. So if 55 should be retired, 62 should be retired. Eventually, 65 should be retired. Are we going to retire every number? Number 1 will be retired before long. Like, I get it. And you know what? It probably should be retired 55 and 62 and 65. But also on the flip side, I'm not one to get excited about retired numbers. I don't think retired numbers should happen eventually at all. What are you saying? Am I a clown? Do I amuse you? Yes, you amuse us big time. Does the UFL kick off? Great. Good for them. I feel like if I played on the same team as Brandon Graham, we would be really cool friends. But he would think I was weird because I'm all business like Kobe. You're the Black Mamba, mister. We know. Fill out them 20. I don't have a bracket. Eventually, 69 is going to be retired. Maybe. If you play and become an all-time great, Mitchie Poo, yes, it'll someday be retired. But it's up to you. He'll get drafted top 10, but I wish the Eagles could draft the next 55 from Michigan. Mason Graham, that would be poetic. Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But yeah, it would be good. Yes, we did. Duh. Start giving players letters instead of numbers eventually when the numbers run out. Yeah, Brandon Graham, letter RR, That would be funny. Yes, the UFL is still a thing, supposedly, but nobody in the right mind actually cares about it other than Memphis, supposedly. We're hating, all right. We're hating. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the UFL. I mean, we care more about the tankathon with the Sixers than the UFL. Bracket is filled out. Florida versus Houston. Okay. I haven't even looked at a bracket other than to see where Michigan State was. I placed one $5 bet, 33-1, on Tom Izzo to lead the Michigan State Spartans to the championship. And honestly, I probably won't watch a second of basketball. I got too much going on, and I haven't watched any all year, so I don't even know anything about anybody. I mean, if you want to talk about March Madness, talk about it amongst yourselves, but I don't know what's going on with it. You can't. I bet you could pay to take that number from them. Athletes always pay each other for number changes. I'm sure a new tractor for Landon Dickerson would get 69 away from him. Something like a new tractor. Eagles' second best ever edge. I don't know. I was being semi-serious. I mean, if it wasn't for Memphis Showboats always commenting, I wouldn't know it's a thing still. Who won last night? I don't even know what won. Who played? Clyde Simmons, second best Eagles defensive lineman ever. Interesting comment, Rick. I would say he's definitely the most underrated Eagles defensive lineman of all time. Most underrated defensive lineman of all time. But second greatest, Reggie White, obviously, is one. I don't know. Maybe. You might be onto something. What's up, Bruce Price Harper? Good morning to you. Yeah, it's a lucky number for some. Did you see? No. Who was on his Mount Rushmore? I do not follow ESP. I mean, some of his stuff pops up on my page because so many people share it out, but I don't follow him and go searching his content. Who was on his Mount Rushmore? Please give it to me. And right now, to me, it's Dawkins, it's Kelsey, Kelsey, Brandon Graham, and then the 4 spots up for grabs still to me. But let me know who they are. You send it to me on Facebook. Dude, I go on Facebook like once a day, maybe. So I don't check Facebook very often. We need to support WNBA players and protest for their pay raises. Angel Reese is leading the charge, guys. I mean, when the business starts making money, no offense to the WNBA, DJ, I hate this, thing that they need to be paid equal to the NBA players. I get it. Maybe they're underpaid a little bit, but the WNBA takes a loss every single year. What business takes a loss as big as they take and then gets paid more? How do you feel about Joel Embiid? Well, I feel Joel Embiid might never see the court again for the Philadelphia 76ers. That's what I feel. Unfortunately, the potential lost with Joel Embiid. Could have been the greatest center of all time. But unfortunately, injury bug took the better of him. That's just that. New tractor equals 69 is a great t-shirt idea to sell country music. There you go. But Nurk got to be on the Mount Rushmore. I mean, if you were born in 1947, sure. But most Eagles fans weren't born in 1947. Dawkins, Kelsey, Graham, and Hurts. That's his Mount Rushmore. He put Hurts on his Mount Rushmore. Even I can't do that yet. I think Jalen Hurts might be there someday, but even I can't put the biggest Hurts, enthusiast out there, the guy that says I would take Jalen Hurts over Joe Burrow, can't even put him on the Mount Rushmore yet. I can't do that. I can't do it, man. Can't do it. What? I don't even get half your comments. You just like to throw random shit up against the wall and see if it sticks. I don't understand it. But Dawkins, Kelsey, Graham, I think you can make an argument there. You could do Bednarik, like Rick would say. You could do Donovan McNabb in theory. No, you can't do Donovan McNabb. I guess that would be a no. You could do Jason Peters, Lane Johnson, maybe eventually. I'm not sure who else it is. Not sure. Bednarik, Tommy McDonald, you go him. If you want to go old school, you could do Harold Carmichael. He is a Hall of Famer. You could go Carmichael. Hurts, I think, when all said and done, will be there because Hurts will be a multi-time Super Bowl champion. So I think in the eventual span of it, but you can't put somebody on Mount Rushmore before their career is over. Yeah, the rumors are on Walker. Look, Howie's got a big move, everyone says, up his sleeve. Is it Walker? I don't know. What's the price tag going to be for Walker? I don't know. That's the question. What's the price tag going to be? In that trade. Howie's playing stealth mode right now, Keith. Everyone thinks Howie's sleeping behind the wheel. Howie's quietly had a great offseason. Howie's also freed up the money to give out extensions next couple seasons to the Carters of the world, the Quinions of the world, etc. Howie's got to play up his sleeve. And I'm just going to say it now. Do not be shocked if Jordan Davis is traded by draft night. I don't like the idea. I'm a big Jordan Davis fan. The fact that they haven't picked up his fifth-year option yet. They got till May 10th or whatever, less than 2 months to do it. How he would have gotten out in front of that by now. I'm not saying that's in the Trayvon Walker trade. My big shock move, I have a feeling that Jordan Davis might not be on this team next season. Trayvon Walker is nice, but he's due a ton of money. Is he? Has he really earned the potential to get that big paycheck? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Phil, do you feel who do you feel is our best coach of all time? In Eagles history or all sports? Right now, Nick Sirianni, only Eagles coach to get to 2 Super Bowls. So you can definitely go Nick Sirianni. It's not Brett Brown. That is for sure. It's not anybody that's coached the Sixers in the last 30 years. Reggie White, Dawkins, Carmichael, Foles. Keeping Big Nick on it. The legend of Philly alone. Guys, again, please click on Pixelated History's YouTube page. It's linked below, or just click on his photo and click subscribe. Get my man and his son, get their YouTube page, crushing it. They do a great job with a lot of history stuff and a little fun as well. So check out Pixelated History, guys. I can't put Nick Foles on my Mount Rushmore. Nick Foles was a backup quarterback that played 2 great games. 2 great games does not put you on Mount Rushmore. I could see Reggie White, even though I think of Reggie White as a Green Bay Packer, not a Philadelphia Eagle. But yeah, that's just your opinion, man. Good morning, little G. Hope you are well. Hope you are well today. Maybe not. Maybe not. Let's fire through these last comments because our special guest is in the green room here. Doc Rivers was amazing, coach. Stop. All right, guys, welcome back to the morning airwaves on the I Have No Sponsor hotline. You know him as Parcero. I know him as JP Zapata. What is up, my man? Good morning to you.
Buenos dias, Phil. What's happening? Thank you for having me on, brother.
Thank you. You have been the most requested guest. I always do it with my guest time, the football offseason. I get a lot of people on. And every day, people in the comment are saying, where is Parcero? We want Parcero. So we give the people what they want here on Trending in the AM.
Wow, I'm honestly flattered, man. Thank you so much. It's really, really nice of everyone. Listen, it's been a minute, and of course,
it's been a long time since we've chatted.
Yeah, man. Once Phil hits me up, of course, dude, I love talking with Phil, so I have to hop on. But hearing the kind words from all the people, I miss everyone. I miss a comment section. I miss reading a comment section while talking, going back and forth. So it is definitely much appreciated, man. I appreciate it.
Well, hang in there because this morning show chat sometimes gets a little crazy. Sometimes the comment you expect it in this is like a after hours comment section at 8:00 in the morning. That's normally what it's like. It's really weird sometimes in the morning. But obviously there's lots going on Philly sports, and the show kicked off obviously with the news talking about thank you Brandon Graham. So I'd love to get your on the air thoughts. First off, I mean, I start the show with just saying thank you, Brandon Graham, and then I ran my intro music. I mean, thoughts on Brandon Graham's career, his legacy, and just what he means to you.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, of course, man. Thank you, Brandon Graham. He pretty much is the epitome of the Philadelphia Eagle, especially over the last decade. And yeah, Phil, I feel old, man. Okay, like my
You're
generation.
Not even that old.
I know. My generation, they're all retired now. Well, Lane Johnson's the last one, right? But no, I mean, Brandon Graham, like he had this one quote, and it's like so cliche, but it's super true. It's like it's not how you start it, it's how you finish it. And like the story of Brandon Graham did not start off on the hot note, right? Like everybody's like wondering on draft night 2010, like why the hell are you selecting BG over Earl Thomas? Everyone thought Earl Thomas was that can't miss prospect, especially in the teens. And yeah, obviously Earl Thomas had a great start through his career. He was part of one of the legendary defenses that we've had in this league. But BG had the longevity, right? And the first couple of years wasn't fun. He had the battles with some terrible coaching staff, battles with the fans, and battles with himself probably, right? He was a young, immature guy from Michigan when he came here, and it took him a minute for him to kind of get his feel. And then once, Schwartzy and Doug Peterson were here, he finally found his rhythm, and 2016 is really where he stepped off. And obviously we all know what happened 2017, won the Super Bowl. But another thing that was BG was the dude. He was a definition of perseverance. I mean, this dude was battling injury after injury and coming back at an old age, battling these injuries and coming back. I mean, we all know the story: tearing the tricep, coming in the Super Bowl, trying to play, trying to help his team. Tears a tricep again. So like BG is the cliche Philly story. I mean, he's Rocky, right? He's the one that's climbing up the steps. He was the underdog. No one really had much I guess confidence or faith in him, but he turned out to be an Eagles legend. And oof, I know you got to do that show, man, but where BG ranks amongst the important Eagles of all time, man, that's a tough one.
It really is tough, you know, and obviously you got the Brian Dawkins, you got the Jason Kelce and all. But I mean, you look at I knew he played the most games in Eagles history. And I knew he was up there because of that, you know, in the stats. But I didn't realize, like, most tackles for losses, third all-time on the sack list, second on quarterback hits, most forced fumbles in Eagles defensive history. I mean, we're talking about a defense that had Reggie White, Clyde Simmons, you know, legends of the game, Hall of Famers. And Brandon Graham is 1, 2, or 3 in every key defensive statistic outside of interceptions there is out there. And I don't think Brandon Graham, the person, gets praised a lot because of the big moment in the Super Bowl, et cetera. I don't think Brandon Graham, the player, gets enough credit for how good he really was over 15 years. And
like you said, like to do it for that long as well is super.
And to stay with one city for one career.
In this day and age, to stay with one team for 15 years, I mean, it's you don't ever hear of that. And I think that's also too like a nod to the organization, because you've seen a lot of, I mean, Lane Johnson's probably going to be doing that as well. Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelce, all players that were able to wear the Eagles green for a long time. And that's what we're building here. And that's like when people are freaking out over the all-season moves, it's like, yeah, it kind of sucks seeing CJ GJ go, but like we're trying to keep the Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley's here for a very long time. And we're trying to do things that winning organizations do. And one more point on BG as well. Like no one really talks about this, but BG was really good as a defensive end that stops the run. He had like this instinct and knowing where the ball was going to go. And that's also comes from studying tape and not hard work and preparation leading up to the big game on Sunday. But that was BG, man. Yeah, real quick, I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on all this, everyone coming for Jason Kelce after yesterday, man?
You know, I can't believe long story short, like I didn't, have a chance to watch any of it or be on social media much yesterday. I had a very busy day. And I tried this morning before the show to start Googling. I don't know. I mean, this was a pretty spur of the moment press conference. You know what I mean? You know, like Jason Kelce might have had plans. Jason Kelce might have had something going. There's been this growing frustration with Jason Kelce, in my opinion, for a couple of months now, I think, in this city. Since the Super Bowl, since his talk show on the weekends at night, I think there's a little bit of Jason Kelce fatigue maybe in this city and him not showing up. Look, if this was really just announced like less than 24 hours, who's to say Jason Kelce didn't have something going on? You know, let Jason Kelce speak before we crush him. I think there's a little unnecessary Jason Kelce hate. While I'm exhausted by him, like others are, I still think there's a little too much Kelce hate going on in this city right now.
I mean, for me, Jason Kelce, like he did what he had to do in the Eagles uniform. Yeah. So now that he's retired, like, dude, he's a civilian. he's like one of us. He's got bills.
He's at his community township meeting trying to battle, the township people like we all do on our Facebook community pages in every town. You know what I mean? He's just a regular Joe Schmo now, and we're giving him crap because he didn't go to one retirement ceremony.
Yeah, he's a Delco boy now. Come on, guys, you got to cut him a break. But
I got a Delco shirt on today. I represent my town.
There you go. I love that, man. Nah, but dude, like to me, it was like it's why are we focusing on Jason Kelce? And you're right. Like he's been such in the spotlight over the last year that. Dude, every little thing is going to be studied under a microscope, and it absolutely sucks. But for me, my mindset was like, I'm here for BG. I'm here to watch BG because this is the Eagles legend that we are celebrating here today. I don't really care about Jason Kelce. Honestly, I didn't care about Fletcher Cox or Lane Johnson being there, but that's really dope that they were there. But it was about Brandon Graham. I just hate that we kind of took the spotlight away from BG when he deserved it. And for what? The dude's Jason Kelce's got bills to pay. Jason Kelce's got a job. He's got a podcast. Let him work, guys. Come on.
That's actually funny because we were talking about 15 minutes ago about what is next for Brandon Graham. And is he going to go into media? Is he going to go to coaching or whatnot? I see someone like Brandon Graham starting a podcast with like a Derek Gunn. We always remember the Derek Gunn interactions after the game. I think a BGDG like podcast or TV show where they're talking sports, they're barbecuing, they're going to restaurants. I think it's gold. And if they do start that, I want credit for it because I came up with the idea right here on the show.
There you go, Phil. You should be the producer, man.
Yeah.
But no, dude, if that happens, man, oh my God, BG. You remember last year, BG opening his mouth at Chickies and Pete's with the Jalen and AJ thing, dude. It's gonna be juicy on that podcast. We're gonna be talking a lot of. I mean,
juice Jalen Hurts was there, and Jalen Hurts was smiling. Like Jalen Hurts never smiles. Even Jalen Hurts was at this presser yesterday smiling. That's the kind of effect he has on his teammates. So to kind of sum up Brandon Graham, I mean, I don't know about you, but it's just it's a big thank you from me.
Oh, absolutely, man. I was wearing my jersey yesterday. I had my Kelly Green Brandon Graham jersey on, and look, that's one player that, you know, in 2010, Phil, I really don't want to make you feel old, but dude, in 2010, I was 16 years old. All right, 16 years old. I'm now 31 years old. So
I was 31 in 2010. To make you feel young, I was 31 then. Okay, just so you know.
Sir. Thank you, sir. But like, you get the point. Like, a good chunk of my adult life, I was able to see Brandon Graham don the Eagles green, and he wore that with so much pride. And I can't thank Brandon Graham enough, man. And I hope that I hope that we have more guys like Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey, guys who can continue playing with that Eagles green for their entire career, because in this day and age, you just don't see it, man.
So a couple quick comments here that I'm going to shut down really quickly.
Let's do it.
We're not doing this show in Espanol. I speak no Spanish. When the Spanish community comes into my restaurant, no speak of Spanish is what I say to them. Sorry. 17 years in business, I have not learned any Spanish. So no thank you.
One day, man. One day.
Yeah. JP's background is like Daryl Morey's master plan to the Sixers a championship. A blank wall. I like that. There's
no AI here. There's no AI here. Okay.
No AI here. I'm gonna ask you about that at some point, but we're on Eagles. We'll get to Sixers in a minute.
Gotcha, brother.
Yeah. We're so old, Big Al. We are so old. I don't even know what culo. I don't even know what that even is.
Okay.
No.
That's a Dominican greeting right there. I like that.
Is that what that is? Dominican? Okay, gotcha.
Okay,
gotcha. See, that's more knowledge than I got right there. We're gonna talk about, you know, the Spanish community and your pride in your local community. I think you are one of the greatest follows on all social media because of not just sports, other things. We'll get to that in the end of the show here. But Eagles off season, people are very, you know, up in the air about the off season. A lot of low. I kind of feel like, you know, Howie Roseman's quietly having a very strong off season, knowing what the big plan is. You know, you got the Jalen Carter contract extension looming. You got a lot of big things happening. And 17 or 18 of our starters from last year are returning to this team. How often does that happen on a Super Bowl team?
Exactly.
So your thoughts and opinions so far on some of the moves that Howie Roseman has done or not done, I guess, you know, according to some fans.
Well, I mean, I've been pretty tamed on the reaction towards the offseason. Like, look, I talked about a little earlier, like CJ, like that definitely sucked, right? Because you kind of saw the impact that he had when he wasn't here in 2023. But like, these are the hard decisions that you're going to have to make. And I think I speak for everyone in Philadelphia. Like, we want a dynasty, right? Like, we would like to be the next dynasty, right? Dynasty teams have to make tough decisions, Phil. Like, we've seen it in the past. Like, Chiefs have to make tough decisions. The Patriots have to make tough decisions in the 2010s and in the 2000s as well. These type of decisions aren't going to be popular amongst the fan base, but this is kind of the fun period because, like, if you are a football nerd, Howie Rose right now is going to try to find diamonds in the rough, and that's freaking awesome. Like, you saw the deals with Olojare, Uche, like those type of deals. I'm hearing we're in the running for Kyle Pitts. I mean, trying to shut off that Dallas Goedert deal and that Bryce Huff deal as well. I mean, this is all now kind of like a chess match for Howie Roseman, trying to figure out these numbers and trying to get some money down. And like we talked about as well, trying to lock up your big players long term. It is really big. This is all for the long run, guys. And this is what's going to, for now, for these next couple of years, this is what's going to have to happen. Obviously, your quarterback has to get paid. Your star players have to get paid. They got to get compensated. And so for the rest of the team, you have to keep supplementing it with young players. 20 draft picks in the next 2 years. You don't have to draft 20 players, but couple of those picks can be used in a package for a player that you may need here and there. Obviously, we all saw. I mean, player development with this team has been really good over the last 2-3 years, and so that has to make you feel a lot better. And Howie has really turned it around with the draft. You know, I talked about that on TikTok, and people were talking about, oh, Howie doesn't always have the best draft record. Well, yeah, but if you look at the last 4 drafts, that literally won you the damn Super Bowl.
You got it. I know Jalen Reagor was in 2020, but Jalen
I'll
Hurts
give
was
you
in
that.
2020.
I'll
Jalen
give
Hurts
you
was in
that.
2020. You got
For
your
sure.
franchise quarterback. So I say on Jalen Hurts alone, the last 5 drafts have been great. I want to give you something here.
Yeah.
To the people so you can use this. 2022 was one of the best off seasons the Eagles had. They traded for A.J. Brown. They drafted
Facts.
Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, N'Kobe Dean, brought in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson the first time, signed James Bradbury, who had an all-pro 2022. The first of those 7 moves, was on draft night for A.J. Brown. They didn't do anything that offseason. One of the most celebrated off seasons in Eagles history did not start till draft night when we traded for A.J. Brown. So anybody worrying at this point, just tell them to look back at 2022.
I think everyone's just still kind of like on that high, and then once they see some of these players that they love go, everyone starts freaking out, and they think that they can't win the Super Bowl next year, and I that's far from the case. I mean, like we at the end of the day, like this league, yeah, some things may change, right? But like I still feel that you still win up front, right? You win in the line of scrimmage. You need a good quarterback to have a chance. And Jalen Hurts has proven that he is a good quarterback. You're always going to be stacked in both offensive and defensive line. That's just the Eagles' way in this era of Eagles football. So I just necessarily cannot be too worried. And look, it's the NFL. Now you are going to be the team that everyone's going to be gunning for. Everyone is trying to beat you. I mean, everyone sees what's going on down 295, right? With the Commanders, they're trying everything possible to dethrone us in our own division. By the way, the NFC is going to be fun with those two battles, man. I cannot wait for both of these games with Washington, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. But
I say that the Commanders get hyped up a lot, but their 8 additions, their 8 additions and re-signings are all 30 or older, while the Eagles are getting younger. The Eagles are coming off a Super Bowl championship. They're retaining almost every single starter from that championship. And who's the oldest player on the team now? You know what I mean? Outside of Lane Johnson, everybody's 26 and younger. So while the Commanders are getting older to compete with us, we're getting younger, and our core stuck together. So I think it's kind of an interesting dynamic watching 2 different teams build to do battle this upcoming season.
And also what will help us is that, like, I know Nick Sirianni like to talk about this, but we still have that identity. Dude, we're going to be another physical bully team. I mean, the A.J. Dillon signing to match that with Saquon Barkley in the backfield. My God, I do not want to play us in a cold December game in Lincoln Financial Field, blistering winds. Run the ball.
Saquon Barkley obviously had a hell of a season, and something we've talked about a bunch on this show this offseason. Like, how do you foresee him following that up next year? Because the track record for running backs having the seasons he had very rarely followed up with another big season. But yet Nick Sirianni, when he spoke after the season, didn't seem too concerned. So we're just going to keep doing what we do. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Do you have faith that Saquon Barkley can match that kind of, maybe not 2,000 yards, but, match that kind of production again?
Dude, what's funny is that, like, I think, like, around that, like, the halfway point, or a little over the halfway point of last season, I was thinking to myself, like, dude, there's no way that the Eagles can continue running this where, Saquon Barkley's getting almost 200 yards a game. Like, that's just not sustainable. But, I mean, I kind of bit my words because he pretty much did that for the entire season. And it's not like he carried the team because obviously the passing game was still there. And we all remember that Pittsburgh Steelers game where that passing game really finally looked like the 2022 passing game. But, like, I'm intrigued with this year because I still don't feel like you can continue relying on Saquon Barkley to be your offense every single week. So I'm curious how that will look like. And yeah, A.J. Dillon is someone I'm intrigued by, especially with short yardage, obviously health issues. So you don't want to run him into the ground, but that passing game is still really good. And that offensive line is still really good as well. I would like to see a little bit more of evolution with the passing game, especially with, listen, Jalen Hurts, I'm not going to take any flowers away from him because he won the damn Super Bowl and it was the MVP. But listen, there was still issues when it came to his progression and reading plays in live games. So I want to see him kind of evolve from that, make those quicker decisions, because I think he has that talent set. And that is obviously going to alleviate some of that load off of Saquon Barkley, because I would like to keep him fresh, because as we saw in this past season, when it gets cold, you want to run the ball a little bit more than when it's a little bit nicer out. So definitely something to keep an eye on. But I don't know how you can continue relying on Saquon Barkley all season long again.
And unlike most, I do have the utmost faith in Jalen Hurts to be able to, He was a Super Bowl MVP. He could damn well be an MVP of the league in the regular season as well. So,
well, you
he's
saw
definitely got the characteristics for that.
You saw like a week or 2 weeks after we won the Super Bowl, he's back out there working on drills, getting ready for this season. That's who he is.
I'm surprised he wasn't doing it before the parade or after the parade. You know what I mean? Like
during the parade, do it.
Yeah, during the parade. Exactly. Although there was some partying going on. I think that was the first time I ever saw the potential that Jalen Hurts might have been partying a little bit. I know the rest of his teammates were. So
he likes a stogie, man. A little stogie.
He does like his stogies. He strikes me as a guy that he likes a nice little high-end bourbon or whiskey or something like that with his stogie.
I like that.
I can see him being that kind of guy for sure. Look, we're talking to JP Zapata, El Parcero Philly here. Woo. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button. We're going to try to touch on all 5 Philly sports teams because he's the only guy that preaches 5 for 5, not 4 for 4 in the area here. So let's move on. Let's touch on the Sixers next because you got your Sixers hat. You're sitting in Daryl Morey's war room right now. I have not worn my Sixers hoodie in about 2 months because I'm embarrassed to put it on. Obviously, the Sixers are a train wreck. Obviously, a disaster. If you could pinpoint one thing that really started this downward spiral, what would it be for the Sixers?
I mean, how much time we got? I'm just kidding. I mean, dude, it's honestly just like a constant domino effect. I mean, if you're looking at this current team, I mean, like the thing is like I can't necessarily fault Daryl Morey because I actually did like the offseason. I thought Paul George was an absolute upgrade with Tobias Harris. I thought he built out a good bench. I mean, Jared McCain did look solid before he got hurt for the rest of the season. So, like, I can't really fault Daryl Morey for what he did in the offseason. But, I mean, like, yeah, Joel Embiid falling apart, his knee falling apart really kind of derailed the rest of the season. And that was the domino effect for 2024-2025 season. I think for right now, I mean, dude, I don't see a way you bring Daryl Morey back. Yeah. I don't know if anyone saw the Marcus Morris rant that he had.
Just going to ask you about that,
Dude, that is the thing is that, like, as much as I dislike Marcus Morris as a player, I do respect him. Yeah. And the thing is that he's not the only NBA player that's played under Daryl Morey that has came out and had some bad words about him. Like, the thing is that if once James Harden did it, I'm like, all right, well, I'm not really going to buy too much into it because James Harden's obviously mad because he's not getting his money. But then PJ Tucker comes out. Now Marcus Morris. And there's other players who have came out and have discussed ill will on Daryl Morey. Now you have this AI BS. And I just don't see how anyone can trust him going into next year. Nick Nurse might get fired. And I don't necessarily feel like it's all his fault. He didn't have the team that he was pretty much promised when he signed on to be the coach of the Sixers. This has been a mess, an absolute mess. And I just don't know where the Sixers can go from here, man.
We'll get back to the AI in a second, but Duck brings up a good point. I said this exactly in the offseason. When you need to go to see 6 different doctors to sign off on the Joel Embiid extension, just to find one doctor to say, yeah, okay, go for it, that tells you you're making a mistake there to begin with, So I love that comment, Duck, for sure. And you bring up the Marcus Morris quote and video from yesterday. And you just said, you thought they had a good offseason. I hated the offseason from the get-go because I did not want Paul George on that contract. I knew he didn't want to be here. I knew he wanted out on the West Coast, so I thought it was a bad fit. But then you hear, Marcus Morris talking about, well, what did you use, AI, to tell you to bring in Caleb Martin and stuff like that? Like, when he starts name-dropping specific players that he thinks that Daryl Morey made a mistake on bringing, and he brings up the whole point of every year he's just bringing in 10 new players, trying to rebuild this team differently every year. It's kind of crazy to think that maybe some of these players knew this team wasn't going to be good from the get-go. Maybe some of us fans liked it, some of us didn't. Daryl Morey liked it, obviously. But the players saw that it wasn't going to be good. The league saw it wasn't going to be good. The league's kind of laughing at us with the way Daryl Morey's running this team.
Dude, so frustrating because the reason why we got into this process, we tanked all those years, is because there was no way in hell a LeBron James, a Kevin Durant was going to sign in Philadelphia. So we tanked so we can get those players to entice those star players to come here in free agency. And, dude, we still have this stink around this organization. This stink is worse now than it was before the 2013 season. Like, we've literally have gone backwards. And now we have wasted Joel Embiid's prime. I honestly don't think Joel
Embiid his career.
I don't think he'll ever be the same. Like if he does come back, like he'll be like, a solid big man, a steady big man, not the MVP type of center that we saw a couple seasons ago. But dude, we literally have imploded this organization that it right now it's untouchable.
Yep. Marshawn, if you missed it, Marcus Morris was talking about the video where Daryl Morey says he uses AI. And when I saw the Daryl Morey video first, at first I thought he meant he uses Allen Iverson to get information. Like, and that would have been less criminal, him saying that, than using artificial intelligence.
I'd rather
Marcus
that.
Morris, in a nutshell, says that he, along with a lot of other people around the NBA, do not trust Daryl Morey at all. And when I hear that word trust with an executive, who's going to want to play here anymore?
Nobody, man. That's a bigger problem too, because, dude, I mean, you're a big baseball guy too, man. There's a lot of nerds over in that sport. Who's to say some of them don't use AI as well? That's really scary in the world we're living in.
I just on a side note, I've never used AI for a single thing in my life.
Scared of it.
I've watched one too many 70s hot sci-fi, robot movies taking over the world. That like it's literally like, I'm not joking. That's really why I won't use AI. Like one of them's gonna. Yeah, I just don't use AI. I'd rather be natural here. I don't use filters on things. I don't do any of that stuff.
Exactly, man.
But you say Daryl Morey is gone, Nick Nurse maybe. I think it's definitely a requirement that they have to reset this team. The problem is Josh Harris. Does Josh Harris even have an understanding that this team? Because I think the biggest problem with the Sixers stems from the guy up top that hasn't cared about the Sixers for years now.
Oh, you
He's
mean
only
the guy
cared about the last couple of years about acquiring and now running his football team.
Yeah, you mean the guy is in Washington running his football team? That guy? That's what he cares about, dude. This team needs to reset and rebuild, man. Like, I know you can't get rid of that Paul George deal.
You can get rid of Paul. I think you get rid of Paul George a lot easier than you can Joel Embiid at this point.
I definitely would have to look at those contracts, but I mean, like, if we ever rebuild this man, like, I always make this joke, but I'm like half serious, dude. If I ever was an NBA executive and I'm trying to rebuild, I am drafting a crap ton of wings. That's all I'm doing. I'm just drafting a crap ton of wings who are going to come in here and are going to shoot and play some defense. I'll find my guard. I'll find my center. But that's the league, man. No one's got a legit position. This isn't 2004. There's no real power forwards. There's no real shooting or strong forwards. Like that's how the league works now, man. And the Sixers never developed a wing player. No. You think about that. And like 15 years now? Or 12 years?
Who's the last elite wing we had on the Sixers?
I mean, that wasn't drafted by us.
Andre Iguodala, was he the last?
I mean,
you're talking 2007, 2008 for that. When he was.
That's criminal, man.
That's a long time, and that's the way the NBA. And when you and I, and this is not to knock your basketball knowledge, but when you and I can see the problems, but you got Daryl Morey, Josh Harris, and Nick Nurse. I'm going to put Nick Nurse under the microscope because I think he's quit on his team this year. I really do. When you see those guys not realizing what commoners like you and I see, I kind of feel like that's a big problem right there.
So how do you not watch the rest of the league? Like that's the thing. Like, how do you not watch the rest of the league and think like, wow, we're missing something here, guys? So I think we go back to the drawing board. Like, it's absolutely insane. I mean, it could be worse, right, Phil? I mean, we could be fans of the Dallas Mavericks, right?
I mean, anybody is tradable in the NBA. If the Dallas Mavericks could trade Luka Doncic for a player that played one game and that's it, then Kyrie Irving goes down. Like, the Dallas Mavericks are a train wreck for sure.
That is karma, my friend.
that would have been like the Sixers trading Joel Embiid 4 years ago.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And instead of for 4 picks, like that would have been like in his prime trading Joel Embiid, and we would have all been in an uprage.
Well, didn't we trade
that would happen?
Didn't we trade Charles Barkley for like two terrible?
We traded him for Jeff Hornacek.
Yeah, that's right.
Something Malone. Jeff Malone, I think his name was. I forget the other guys. I mean, I was already probably in high school at that point, or pretty close to high school.
You probably broke something at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had to tune into 6 ABC News to get that breaking information, or reading in a newspaper. There was no podcast to talk about it. I'm going to date myself. I had to listen to Gary Papa at the 6 o'clock news, break it down. You know what I mean? So
there was no podcast P back then.
No, there was no podcast anything back then at all. Again, I'm old. The theme of this show is that I'm very old and you are very young. So yeah, you got your whole life in front of you. So
you're young in spirit, Phil.
Yeah, young in spirit. I don't know about that. All right, next team. Let's keep moving along the 5 for 5 here as we're talking to JP here, Parcero, my man. The other bad team that plays at the is it still the Wells Fargo Center? I think it's still the Wells Fargo Center. I haven't been there in so long. The Flyers. Flyers had a lot of hope this season. The Flyers, I didn't realize until this morning when I was checking the standings, they're the 5th worst team in the NHL now. A team that was on the cusp of making the playoffs literally a month ago has completely fallen apart. The Matvei Michkov hype train has kind of just disappeared.
Oh man!
And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to comment in the next 5 minutes and say fire John Tortorella in the comment section. Is it really that? Is it really that simple, or are the Flyers just as much of a disaster as the Sixers are right now?
Well, for my first point, I'm going to say is that, man, we could have both of our winner teams have top 5 picks in their respective drafts, which would be, I don't even know the last time that even happened. Maybe the Nolan Patrick one, but regardless of the fact, like, I mean, yeah, if I'd be lying to you if I had some John Tortorella fatigue, and like the simple fact is that like it's just getting a little too old school. The constant benching of your young players, or just constant benching of players, is getting a little bit too old. And like, I'm all for the rebuild. I was all for it. I want it done the right way. I don't want to deal with the last 10 years of Flyers hockey that we had to deal with before Danny Briere took over, because that was just not fun. Like we would get some excitement going, and then boom, it would fall right back down like King the Ka. And I want this done correctly. And it seemed like we were heading in the right direction. I did like the mentality Tortorella was instilling, because look, if you want to be the Florida Panthers, right? If you want to be that type of team, you need to play both styles of hockey. You need to be able to grind it out, play some defense, and you also need to have some skill and score some goals. And I thought that Torts was building that, but right now, like, you're stunting the growth of a lot of the young players. And right now the problem is that you trade away some of these forwards, Morgan Frost gone, Joe Farabee gone, Scott Lawton gone. Who are your forwards? This was already a team that didn't have a legit center. I mean, Sean Couturier at this point of his career, he's a strong 3C, probably on a playoff caliber team. And so like he's still out there skating, but right now this team is lacking offense. And obviously you don't have players to get the puck to guys like Michkov or Travis Konechny or even Owen Tippett. So it is a little bit of, guys just trying to play solo hockey. That's this Flyers team last year was on the doorstep of the playoffs because they played as a collective unit and they played that physical style of hockey. You needed to play a full 3-period game, because if not, you were not going to beat the Flyers. And this year, obviously, look, they got rid of some players, and this is where they're at right now. I think Danny B realizes that, look, there's way too many players right now on the team that aren't going to be here in the future. And so I do like that he got proactive and got some pieces for it. I mean, dude, we got six picks in the first 2 rounds of this upcoming draft. That's a lot of prospects you can bring in, man.
Something I keep telling Flyers fans, and it kind of got overhyped a little bit this season because Michkov came over this year versus next year, the following year, that Danny Briere, from the day he took over, said, you're going to be very unhappy with X, Y, and Z because we're building towards 2026. It's a rebuild. We have a plan. I don't care. Even last year when we were on the cusp of the playoffs, he still sold last year too. You know what I mean? He still made moves that didn't excite the immediate fan base, like the immediate attention span. But there's been a plan in place. Now, will the plan work out? We don't know. He's still got to hit on his draft picks. He's still got to find a goaltender, and things like that. Probably find a new coach. But he's been very honest. Where Daryl Morey talks in, I forget the word. I'm trying to say an English word here, and I can't remember it. He talks in different little, ways there. Danny Briere's honest and forthright with everything he's doing. It just comes down to him succeeding on it, right?
Yeah, I just feel like Danny B is planting the seeds for what could be a championship caliber team. Even like you look at the deadline, it's more than just finding prospects, right? It's more than just creating good relationships with free agents, but a good way to create those good relationships with free agents. This past trade deadline, I thought something interesting was he traded Scott Lawton to his hometown team in Toronto. He's from Toronto, or the Toronto area. And then he trades Eric Johnson back to Colorado, where he spent a majority of his career. Like, that's going to put, it sucks getting traded, right? Uprooting your family. So Scott Lawton is pretty much, has had his family settled here for a long time. So that definitely is a tough situation. But sending these guys to places that they probably would like to go to. That's a big thing. I know patience is tough right now with the city, with these teams in particular. But I think with the Flyers, I'm willing to be more patient because I do see them doing the right thing. This is different from the Sixers process because there are still veteran players and there is still learning going on. And they are trying to learn a good style of hockey. The talent is just not here. Whereas the Sixers, it's like, a bunch of G leaguers and go figure it out. And then we'll figure it out later on down the line.
Do you think the Sixers' failures this year has put more eyes on the Flyers, which is why so many Flyers fans are frustrated with the Flyers as well? If the Sixers were competing for the third or fourth seat right now, everybody was healthy, the Flyers would be that secondary story. Now that the football season's over, now that the championship parade's over, all eyes are on basketball and hockey right now.
Yeah.
And both are stinking it up pretty bad at the same time, which frustrates everybody. They don't have that secondary distraction right now.
For sure. I mean, Sixers fatigue has reached an all-time high right now. I mean, everyone is just fed up with what's been going on. Like, I don't know about you. I may have watched maybe 5 games this entire year, if that. And I think people are more gravitated towards the Flyers because you do have that young star. You do have that budding superstar in the workings with Matvei Michkov. And so I think a lot of people are more gravitated towards that and possibly have a little bit more patience with the Flyers than they do than the Sixers. I think right now Flyers Nation just wants Torts out of here. They're just tired of Torts. But everything else with the Flyers, I think they're fine with.
Noom's saying he believes in Jonesy even more than he believes in Danny Briere at this point.
He's a good dude, man. Jonesy's a good dude, and he's brilliant, man. I think he's really bright. He thinks of things in the modern day. I think that's very important.
Real quick though, just to finish it up, you mentioned Matvei Michkov. I mean, how much you've watched this year, but I'm very excited. I mean, obviously, Torts benching him. I was looking at his minutes per game on the ice. It's just so low for a guy of his talent and everything like that. He's got, I don't know, I forget what it is, like 20 goals on the season, 22 goals on the season.
It's really good.
Have you seen enough this year in this small, struggling sample size to believe the hype of him coming over here?
I mean, I'm going to knock on wood first, but yeah. 100.
Yeah. I'm going to knock on it too. Yeah.
This is Philadelphia, of course. 100%, Phil. I mean, like he's got that killer instinct that I think that's very important. And he loves this game, man. He lives, breathes, dies this game. And obviously, like, he's got a little extra motivation. He always talks about the unfortunate passing of his father, and that's definitely kind of like, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, wants to go out and do it for him for sure. I think you just got to get him help, man. And obviously, look, the language barrier thing is legit. I mean, not being able to fully communicate with your teammates is big, especially when you're on the ice. Communication is so important. I think when defenses fail, it's because there's a lack of communication. That's something that can always attribute to that. But he's legit, Phil. We just got to get him the talent around him. But I think we have our next cornerstone piece of the Flyers for the next decade or so.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on that. We need a goalie and we need a coach. And then we can actually start, although, again, being old, again, the theme of the show is how old I am. I mean, I remember Ron Hextall's first try in Philadelphia in the late 80s, and we haven't had a great goalie since the late 80s. So, that's, again, how old I am. It's been a 30-year process to find a goalie in Philadelphia.
Hey, we eventually got a franchise quarterback. We'll eventually get that, too.
Yeah, exactly. We eventually. It took quite a few tries, but we got it. All right, there's one other team in their season right now. We'll close the 5-for-5 with the Phillies. There's another team that is now, 4 games into their season now?
Right.
Your favorite team, the Philadelphia Union. I'm assuming you've been down to Subaru Park. And
I've not yet.
How have you not gotten down to the park yet for a game yet this year?
Scheduling, weather. I've become a little soft as I gotten older. Dude, like,
people complain that I don't go to games, and that's exactly why I'm old.
I don't know if you feel the same way, but it doesn't matter what game I go to. It could be the Eagles, the Sixers, Phillies, Flyers, or Union. I'm sore. I'm tired after. Like, I felt like I played in the game, man. It's exhausting going to some of these games, but I definitely will go down to Subaru Park once the weather gets nicer. I like to go down with shorts in my jersey, man. That's how I like to go down there.
But anyway, the season started, and obviously new coach this year. Lots changed. I won't lie. The last 3 years since the move to Apple TV for the MLS and the Union has really hurt my ability because I'm not paying for Apple TV just for the Union, unfortunately. So, it feels like ages ago that they were competing for the championship. at the same time as the Phillies were playing in the World Series.
I know.
But since then, the lack of ability to watch them has hurt my look. But I do try to keep track of them and keep how they're doing. Obviously, they've had a pretty decent start to their season. There are a few Union fans that watch this show. Not many, but there are a few.
Love you guys.
Thoughts on the new coach, Bradley, Cornell?
Yeah, perfect Cornell, yep.
And how they've started the season, because there's a lot of changes that have happened with the Union leading up to the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it starts with Jim Curtin getting fired, and at that time, I was disappointed.
How long was Curtin here for? It was a long time, right?
Yeah, so it was 9 seasons. Almost this year would have been 10th. So right before the decade.
It's very rare for any Philadelphia coach to last that long in Philadelphia.
That is 100, and especially a Philly guy. Like he was Philly through and through. Played at Villanova, but once he was fired, I was disappointed because it was a scapegoat move. They had a bad season. They missed the playoffs for the first time in 8 years or 7 years, and so once that happened, I was kind of in a shaky place with the front office. But then I did remember that Ernst Tanner's still here. He's the GM in soccer. It's an athletic director, but he's the GM. So he's built a really good team for Jim Curtin in the time that he's been here. And Ernst Tanner's been here since 2018. So I'm like, okay, let me give an opportunity to Ernst. Let's see if Ernst can find his knack again to finding diamonds in the rough around the world. That's what got him. That's what got Jim Curtin to the 2022 MLS Cup final. And they had a solid offseason, honestly. They filled. He did accomplish his promise. Ernst Tanner did. Ernst Tanner promised to find a player in each facet of the game. So he found an offensive player, he found a midfielder, he found a defender, and he did bring all that in. And all those players have essentially helped. The beginning of the year, the Union got back to their bread and butter, playing as a cohesive unit, playing with high intensity and defense first. Tai Baribo, the Israeli striker, he is leading the MLS right now in goals through 4 matches with 6. He's on a historic pace. We'll see if he can continue that run of form. But Jovan Lukic is someone I would definitely keep an eye out, Phil. He's already scored 2 ridiculous goals, like beautiful style goals. And he's kind of brought back what Jose Brujo Martinez kind of left off, that tenacious style of a midfielder, defensive oriented. And he's been matched up right next to a guy named Danley Jean-Jacques, who we bought in the middle of last year. And they have formed a really good partnership that's really helped his defense, because last year it was atrocious. It was a mess. Jack Elliott and Jakob Glezis had to be broken up. Elliott's now in Chicago. Glezis and this new kid, Oluwathu Makanya, who we got 2 years ago. MLS has all these weird contract stipulations, but he was signed under what's called an under 22 initiative. It's just a way so you can pay younger players a little bit more money and bring them over here. So that's why he signed that deal. And I didn't think he was going to be good, but he's really held his own. He lost his composure in the last match against Nashville, but he's been really good as well. And so overall, the signings have worked. We still have to see the record signing, the most expensive player so far in Union history, Bruno Diamani from Uruguay. We need to kind of see him kind of step out. He's only got 1 goal in his first match, which was pretty cool. But this is still, right now, what we've seen, this is still a team that can contend in the Eastern Conference. It's a long season. They don't have a congested schedule. That was a problem with the Union over the past couple of years, because when there's so much winning, you have to play in tournaments. You got to play in the North American tournament, the CONCACAF Champions Cup. You got to play in Leagues Cup. This year, they only have the longest, what's called the U.S. Open Cup. It's the longest running tournament in U.S. soccer history. So they'll be in that this year. A lot of Union fans love playing in that because they've been in 3 finals. But yeah, it's back to what works for the Union. Defense first, playing with high intensity. And so it's exciting right now, man.
So you're excited, but are you confident in this team this year? At least, I mean, you're saying playoffs, but the confidence there that they can have. Honestly, at this point, there's room in Philadelphia for another team to be successful and win our hearts right now.
I think right now I'm confident this team can contend for the Eastern Conference. I don't know if this team is still ready to win. I think they can. The one question mark would be Bruno Diamani. If Bruno Diamani can be an absolute killer, and I mean, you saw Julian Carranza in 2022. The dude was an absolute killer. And now, by the way, Julian Carranza is doing it in the biggest stage of club soccer. He freaking scored a goal in one of the toughest places in Italy, San Siro, to eliminate Inter Milan, one of the biggest clubs in the world as well. So he's doing it out in Europe. I'm hoping Bruno Diamante. If Bruno Diamante can be anywhere near that, then I like our chances of being a championship caliber team, because there is depth on this team. There is a style of play with this team. Subaru Park is a fortress as well. I'm not really scared of anyone in the Eastern Conference except for Messi Miami and Atlanta United. But this is a team that definitely can make a running, and I have to give credit to Ernst Tanner because this is a solid squad.
All right, final 5 for 5 run here with JP Zapata here. The Phillies, the fighting start. Wait, I get so excited. Whether I'm excited or not, I get excited because when the Phillies games start, that means spring is here, which means summer's almost here, which means days at the ballpark, tailgating, hot dogs, all that kind of fun is almost here. But the Phillies have kind of disappointed the last year or so. They've come up short a few years in a row. They haven't made too many changes. Now, I know Rick, who's in the comments, will say, without a shadow of a doubt, they're winning a World Series this year. But I'm not so confident in the Phillies winning. I think they're going to be one of the best regular season teams. But the same problems that has existed in the playoffs still exist this year on this team. So, real quick, thoughts on this Phillies season, which starts next Thursday? Yeah, so 8 days away from the start of the season.
Yeah, we're here, guys. We're here. We're here with
packing up their bags and heading home from Florida real soon.
That's right. I think the 24th is the last spring training game, but I'll be honest with you. The Phillies to me are getting close to where the Sixers were maybe 3 years ago. I'm getting a little fatigued with the Phils. I mean, the fact is, it is what it is. If you lose in the playoffs, it is what it is. But you lost to the stinking Mets, and that wasn't even a good Mets team. I'm sorry. But the fact that we lost to the Sean Manayas of the world, Luis Severinos of the world, like that pitching rotation was not that good. We literally just beat ourselves in that series there. And so that's kind of why I'm going into this year. I'll be honest with you. I agree with you, Phil. Like, baseball is a time to rejoice because that means good weather is coming. Relaxing a baseball game. I love the relaxation factor of baseball because, like, sports doesn't always have to be this intense thing like football and hockey, right? Or basketball. Like, sometimes you could just sit back, relax, and just watch a game play as it is with the special craft that is baseball. But, like, with this team, I'm just not too confident. I think the pitching staff's gonna be a lot of freaking fun. I mean, it's still pretty loaded. And by the way, Andrew Painter may be coming up at some point this season, which I'm excited to see as well. Mm-hmm. But this batting lineup, like, I'm one of those guys that, like, I would like to see maybe some optionality. I don't need to see Kyle Schwarber leading off every single game. I still think he should be the main leadoff guy. Really? But okay. I do think that there needs to be some other options too. Like, in an ideal world, I would love Trey Turner to also be the leadoff guy as my second option, maybe like every 4 days or every 6 days, especially come playoff time when you need Kyle Schwarber a little bit down the lineup for some of that power. That I would love to see something like that. But this batting lineup, I don't feel too confident in because it's still a bunch of guys who are just going to be trying to swing for the freaking fences. And I want some more small ball, man. Like, small ball does win in this league, man. Like, it's funny because it's kind of like hockey right now, where, like, in hockey you need to play both styles of hockey, offense or defense. But in baseball as well, like, there are times where you're going to need that small ball, and there are times where that long ball is going to be hitting. And so right now with this and especially the outfield, I'm not too right now. There's a bunch of injuries in the outfield. I think Marsh and Kemper are hurt right now. So I'm just not too confident with the squad. And you're in a division where the Mets got better. The Braves will always be the Braves. And we'll see if the Nationals be a sneaky team this year. But, yeah, I'm not too confident with the Phils.
I feel like the Phillies, I mean, I wish Trey Turner was the leadoff hitter. I don't know if it'll happen or not. Rob Thompson has talked about it. But I kind of feel like, crapper get off the crapper from Dombrowski here from Nooms. Dombrowski needed to do something to shake this team up. Whether it was fire Rob Thompson, fire Kevin Long, the hitting coach, trade one of their big guys, just to shake up the clubhouse. There's just the word I always look at with this Phillies team is accountability. And I don't feel like if you had, again, age, here's the theme of the show again, age, if you had a Darren Dalton or a John Kruk on this team, like in 93, this team would have gotten to the promised land already because there is the talent on this team, but there is no accountability on this team. And that's the problem.
This is like one of the oldest teams in baseball as well, man.
Yeah.
That does not.
Phillies are the youngest, or the Eagles are the youngest, the Phillies are one of the oldest.
And are we still going to call them the daycare, even though they're like close to 30?
I've already said I don't want to hear the word daycare. I don't want to hear dancing on
Thank
your
you.
own.
Thank you.
I said that last year. I don't want to see them doing hand gestures after a base hit in the 4th inning. Like, I don't need Bamboo Brad. I don't need Garrett Stubbs with his shirt. I don't need any of that. Just win me baseball games. That's all I want in the playoffs. That's all I want. We don't need any catchphrases anymore. We need playoff wins. That's what we need.
Don't win the division either. We've learned that. Like, I don't know how many times we need to see it. Like, don't win the division. Go out there, be a wild card team, and go run the table and beat some of these teams. Because like when they're the underdog, it feels like they do better. You know, they like to be the underdog. They don't like to be the big gun.
But the underdog is where the dancing on our own thing came from. Yeah. Like I didn't want it last year. They brought it back last year. You know, I don't need Stubbs vibes in the clubhouse anymore. Like, you know, like. It's frustrating. You know, people, you know, think all I care about is the Eagles because that's what we talk about 97% of the time on this show.
Well, look at your background, man. You're definitely a Phillies
Everything is Phillies. My first tattoo was a Phillies tattoo. You know what I mean? Yes. Like, literally, you know, I got this here. This is Harry Cowles, okay? But the painting of it is in, like, the shape of it is in the words of High Hopes. So they wrote the words High Hopes into the shape of Harry Cowles. Found this for $5 at a thrift store. It's the greatest thing I know. Yeah. Like, this is all Phillies and Jimmy Buffett back here. That's all there is back there right there. So, you know, I want them to win. I don't need catchphrases anymore, man.
I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to have Phillies fatigue because, dude, baseball is so much fun. And, dude, October in this city when the Phillies are in the playoffs and are doing so good, dude, there is literally nothing like that. We literally shake this freaking town. Like, as much as we love the Eagles are not shaking the town the way the Phillies do in the playoffs. We all want it, man. We'll see. It is obviously a really long season, and we'll see what kind of transpires of it. Maybe they do turn it on. Maybe, you know, another thing too is Dumbo has not been hitting on his trade deadlines. No. He was pretty solid in 2022, which probably helped us go to the World Series. But I watched some of these teams that have been in the World Series or have won the World Series. My brother, they are killing it in the trade deadline, and that's why they are where they're at.
All right, so we got about 10 minutes left in the show here today. So I want to spend the last few minutes talking about, you know, JP here because he's not just Philly sports. He's also culture and his community. And I want to start off with one thing here. And, you know, I'm a small business owner. I own my own small restaurant, okay? In a town, I'm not an immigrant, but in a town filled with immigrants. Kennett Square, I mean, the Mexican and Guadalupe or Guatemalan community in my town, I mean, half my customers come from those. But you did a video a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, about your favorite kebab place, and I forget the name of the restaurant now. And
Jersey Kebab, man.
I meant to look it up, and you know, you could tell the story about the restaurant if you like. But the thing that just meant so much to me is because, you know, so many people will go out there and crush a small business for forgetting the side of rice or forgetting the pepperoni on the pizza or, you know, whatever. Yeah. Nobody goes out there and shows the positive support of the businesses in the community. And I'll tell you, you can tell that story, but you know, you mentioned how like he feeds the homeless and stuff like that in his town. Nobody goes out there and promotes the good. Like everybody wants to call me for the donation to their charity or whatever, but no one ever says thank you. And when I saw you giving that thanks to that business, it really hit home to me. So I wanted to thank you, but I'd love you to tell that story and everything about the restaurant there.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I appreciate you bringing it up. So, like, for a little background for myself, the reason why we started Parcero Philly was I wanted to give a different dynamic to Philly sports. Like Philly sports, especially like I grew up listening to Philly sports radio, WIP 97.5. It always felt the same. It was the same person behind the mic, and I just felt like Philadelphia was bigger than that. Like, dude, we're so multicultural in the city. We have people from all different walks of life. And so I kind of wanted to always represent that, but with my passion for sports, because I did grow up here. And so like, I love highlighting those little businesses, especially like Latino owned businesses, because obviously I am Latino. I'm really proud of being Latino, but like the community in general, that's kind of like Philly sports has taught me, Phil. Like I love the communal aspect of sports. It's why I'm so obsessed with this world. And so when I heard about Jersey Kebab, me and my wife love Mediterranean food or wherever in the or Middle Eastern food as well. Like we love that type of cuisine. And so we've always eaten at Jersey Kebab since we've lived here in Collingswood. It's right down the street. like you mentioned, they're super friendly, bro. You walk in, they treat you like family. The homeless thing was so big because like I mean, you see a lot of businesses or a lot of restaurants, they see someone homeless, like, get out, we don't want you here. But no, these people like literally will open their arms. It's like, hey, have you eaten today? Here's a plate of food, whatever it may be, but here's a plate of food. But it is really important because like these people are part of our community. Like the thing is that this country was built off of immigration as well. I mean, like, you can go all the way back to the Irish and the Italians that came here and went into Perry Island, right? I'm a product of immigration as well. My parents both came here as well, and thank God they did. I was able to have a better life because of that. And so like any of the type of those stories, I always like to highlight. Especially like the thing is too is like, Phil, like, let's be honest, people have a larger palate for food these days. Like people like those different types of foods from different cultures. And so, if I can help highlight a business in the area, if it's Latino, awesome. If not, dude, I love supporting our local pizzerias too, man. Come on, I love my pizza, of course.
Who doesn't? But also, like, we don't get serious on this show very often. We try to keep it very lighthearted. But obviously, you were highlighting this restaurant because of the state of our country. I don't want to get into the politics of it, so to speak, but obviously the restaurant was shut down because of the current state of immigration in this country, right?
Yeah. So the parents of the business were detained. I don't know exactly what happened, but from my understanding, there was an ICE call. They went to the restaurant and they took both the parents away. I think late last week, they finally the father was released about like a couple days after this happened. The mother was released late last week. But dude, the amount of people standing outside of Jersey Kebab showing support. If you go right now, drive by Jersey Kebab, there's signs saying like, thank you, like, bring this family back, like, justice for this family and stuff like that. And it is freaking awesome. They were on, I think, 6 ABC. I think they were on CBS 3 as well. There was a bunch of articles like through the Courier Post. I try to do my part as well, being local here and having some type of a platform. That was, I mean, anyone just posting was just a big deal. So yeah, I'm with you, man. Like the thing, like obviously, like I had a platform like you, like, obviously, like we don't like to joke around about sports and stuff like that. But obviously,
there's bigger things happening out there.
Exactly. And the thing is too is like, those type of people are fans of Philly sports too, man. Those people are probably also watching the Eagles and celebrating with the Eagles and having to go through those horrors and that scary time. But yeah, man, we're happy that the family's back. They seem safe, and we're still waiting for that date, Jersey Kebab, waiting for that date for you guys to reopen, because I'm ready to get my kebab.
There'll be a line around the building that day that they open. I just think it's great because, again, like I said, my town was in the news a lot about 2 weeks ago because of the ICE raids in my town, and the same thing happened 8 years ago. Our town got very scared. What I mean? But there were multiple businesses shut down the last couple of weeks in my town. You like your Latino food. I don't know how you have not been out to Kennett Square for food yet. I know I've got pizza there, but I mean, there's this place called Deanna's. It's like a little Mexican food store. Okay. But they put on in their parking lot a typical Mexican street festival every single night. And on a Friday or Saturday night, when the weather is nice, there is a line of traffic down the road to pull into this parking lot. And everybody's got their tents set up doing their authentic Mexican food. It's literally, I'm scared to go in there, because I would look like the only gringo in there and everything, and they would all look weird at me. But it's great, but it's also scary that, like, the place I get my tires for my Jeep, they're one of the places that got raided. They've been changing my tires and fixing my flats on deliveries at a drop of a dime for literally 10 years, and they're gone. They were just kicked out. Just like that.
Yeah,
they're
it's
good
scary,
people.
Man.
Spent money at my business. I spent money at their business. They helped people if they got a flat tire on the road, whatever, and they're gone.
Dude, the best hard people. And listen, I worked in restaurants for a long time too, man. And like, I've made so many friends with kitchen mates from Mexico or Central America. And yeah, man, they're first off, they're so much fun to work with. And second off, like, they're just amazing people, man. Like it is truly awesome. And I love hearing those stories, man. I definitely love hearing those type of stories, because yeah, they are a pillar of the community, man. Believe it or not, they are a big pillar of the community, and they're just trying to survive like you and I, man. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's all it is. I always think about my man Manny. He's my closest friend. He came here, from Mexico a long time ago. He got legalized years ago. But I mean, this guy's gone from washing dishes, not speaking a lick of English. He employs 25 people in his business now. He's got a huge house. He's got a beach house. I mean, he's a pillar of his community, so to speak. And it's the American dream is still out there for people if they want it. They just it's a little stressful for some of them right now. That's all.
Yeah, and for me too, it's tough to like kind of look away because there are times like I feel very identified more with my Colombian culture than my American culture. And so like a part of me does feel a little privileged because I'm an American citizen. I was born in Philadelphia, so I don't have to go through those scares, but it doesn't mean that like I don't feel for those people. So it's definitely hard to kind of just look away. So if there's anything I could do to help, and by the way, you guys do have rights. I've posted it on my stories as well. If that happens to happen to you, there are things that you can do. So definitely just be informed for sure.
Yeah, no, great. And you know what? Hopefully that restaurant, the kebabs open back up there because I want to see a happy ending. You brought light to. I couldn't even point to your town on a map, but you brought light to such a great story on such a big platform, and I love it. So again, as a small business owner, I'm saying thank you to you for what we said thank you to Brandon Graham to start. We're closing with me saying thank you to you.
Oh, dude, thank you so much, man, Phil. And thank you for having me on, Phil. I loved, I do miss it sometimes talking some Philly sports, chopping it up like this, going team to team, man. And always chopping up with you, Phil. You are such a great Philly sports mind. And Trending in the AM is the best show in the morning to watch, man. And with nothing on the radio, nothing else on YouTube, Trending in the AM is what you people need.
Nothing else on YouTube? No, I wasn't going to get into it, but no.
Nothing.
So what's next? What's JP's plans here in the future? Are we going to start seeing some more content from you anytime soon, or any of your shows back ever again?
Well, we'll see about the shows, but definitely for right now, I want to just continue the short forms of content like TikToks and Instagram Reels and such like that. Is simply because it's just easier, and I could just talk about what is on my mind and throw in some little graphics on there. It's very simple, but I've had some ideas for YouTube. I don't know, podcasting, we'll see down the line, but I'm intrigued by like what's going on YouTube right now with just like informational videos. Obviously, Phil, as you know, in this day and age, people have a short-term memory span. So they do. I would like to do some informational stuff that's less than 10 minutes on YouTube. But we'll see. Definitely just trying to figure out as well what's next for me. We got to get a steady income in. Obviously the job market is really rough, even for someone who's had experience in the sports media industry. But we'll figure it out. We always do, man. We're always staying positive and having, of course, good pillars of the community like Phil Stiefel, man. So we're gonna keep our heads up high here.
Well, thank you very much for coming on today. We greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you, man.
We're definitely going to do this again sometime soon.
Yes.
So, we're also planning a Trending in the AM Phillies game on a Saturday sometime this summer. So I'm gonna have to get everybody, from all walks of life, the Parceros of the world, the Dylans and the Scotties of the world. We're gonna do a big Trending in the AM Phillies game and tailgate.
Can't wait to tailgate that, man. Yeah.
So I still remember the old DSM tailgate days.
Yeah, dude, that was fun.
We gotta bring that back this summer at some point here. That's been a big request. But thank you very much for your time. Have a great day, guys. Everybody have a great day as well. Everybody have a good one. As we end every show here, very, very simply, bubbles up.
Pop, 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 julep. Pop, 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 julep. Pop, 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 pop.